Hey there, welcome to C&T Collectibles. Hope you're doing well. I am C, and this is your weekly sports card chart blast, where we take a look at the price action of our favorite collectibles. Price is truth. I left all of my notes somewhere, and I can't find them, so this will be as much of a surprise to you as it will be to me. So I remember kind of the basic outline of what we're talking about here, but there's some details that I might struggle with. And, well, you know what? I struggle every week with this thing, so shouldn't be any different here. Anyways, we'll start off with some of the indices, baseball. And then we're going to do some football. Look at, the season's kicking off tonight, or last night, I guess, by the time you're seeing this. And so look at a few interesting next-gen stats players, what, if anything, we should be doing with those cards. And then we've got a little bit of basketball, hockey, and we'll wrap it up with some crypto. So I can't buy it or sell it or trade it, so I can talk about it. It's not regulated, so free-for-all here. So anyways, for the indices, for the past week here, we are looking at the Culture 51. These are the top 51 pop culture cards in Card Ladder's database. That Zero Cool feels should be in an index. So if that means anything good or bad, that's a Zero Cool curated list there. So wrestling, the Card Ladder 50. That's kind of their list, their Dow or whatever, the blue chips. You'll find a lot of the big names in that one. Entertainment, there's a lot of crossover between the pop culture and the entertainment indices. But interestingly, high pop, soccer, modern, pre-war vintage, and Pokemon. So high pop cards getting a little bit of love here. People dipping their toes back in, taking a little bit of risk here as the overall markets are trying to figure out if we're bottoming or whatever. So we'll just kind of get into it here in the Culture 51 index here, breaking its downtrend. Take all this stuff with a grain of salt, all right? There's not a lot of volume on these things. Now, some of the more popular cards, there is, and you can make, then I'll those charts I think make a little bit more sense. I'll believe them a little bit more, but something like this, it's pretty thin, so it works still. But one person can come in and really kind of mess it all up here. So it doesn't take much here. But anyways, that Culture 51 index breaking its downtrend, starting to go up there, and you hear a lot of chatter about the music cards and things of that nature. And my friend and yours, Paul Velblom, he pointed me in the direction of a couple of them that I thought were fun. And as people kind of get burned on the regular sports cards, they'll head off into other stuff, and it's like Guns N' Roses, they have staying power, right? They're not going anywhere. So some of the high pop cards, or let's just say modern cards. These are the modern cards. Are getting some love as well. People are happy to pick up the raw Stevie Y and the 84 O-Peachy with the monster rip this week. This is one of the leaders in the modern card area here. And it was more of a one-off. Someone got a really good price on one, and it could be condition sensitive. Something, it's a raw card. Who knows what's going on there? Brings it into a level where it's mostly just been flat over the last couple of years. Flareon, kind of the same thing. People caught it at the bottom of the range here, and now it's at the top of the range. So I don't think you need to chase it there, but we're also talking about $17. So whatever. An Aerodactyl, you see these one-offs here, and it just brings it back into to what is a gently sloping downtrend. But again, we're talking about $10-15 or something like that. So sure, it doesn't take much to push these things around. All right, let's get into baseball. Mike Trout. I always start off with Mike Trout. For baseball cards, it's kind of starts and ends with Mike Trout for modern cards at least. And so he's not dead yet. He had the back injury, and I think people were, what's going on here? And we had a couple price targets, $500 range, and figured, all right, $2,000 would maybe be the downside on this one. If it breaks $1,500, would be the downside on another leg lower, and 1525 was kind of the low in this area here. So we've got a pretty well-defined downtrend, but we're starting to break out of that a little bit here. He's hit home runs in 4 straight games as of this recording here. So if he is injured and he's still going to put up MVP type numbers, that's not a bad thing. So for the season, he's still sitting at like 170 plus weighted runs created, 32 home runs, striking out north of 30% of the time. And so that's, bringing his average down to that 260, 270 area. Although last year, it's shorter sample size, but, he had 300, while striking out about 30% of the time, and only Mike Trout can do that probably here. So, could this be the bottom? We'll see. If that 1500 area holds, I'd like to see, there's a little bit of a break. I'd like to see that sustained. We've had a kind of a false break before, close enough for our work here, I guess, and just call it a continued downtrend. But now we're starting to break out and push up against that previous level of kind of that 1800, 1825 or something like that. So see if it can't get back up there, call it $2,000 and, and push its way higher here as people start to get back on the Trout trade. Again, a lot of concerns. What is this back injury going to do? And apparently the answer is nothing. So, I'm a buyer. I bought a Bowman Chrome. So I've got one of those, right? I've got one of these. And so kind of some of the Bowmans, and I was really hoping, well, not hoping, because something bad would have to happen, I think, to push his Bowman draft autograph down to that $4,000 range. So I was like, okay, if it gets there, I'm in. But hoping is not the right word on that. So broken up trend. But now you're into this area of congestion here, and it looks like it's stabilizing a little bit. Got down to I want to say 78 or something like that, 7,800. And we're a few $100s behind that. So buying is starting to pick up, and you can see that there's a number of buys here. So the interest is starting to come back as those prices lift up. The people start to trade down into some of those other cards. And he doesn't have that many other cards. And so they the regular old 2011 update PSA could be an interesting pick here. Bo Bichette, a player that's really been on fire, one of the better players in the league, one top 3 player over the last month and change. And his cards are there's not a lot of interest in his cards. When he first came, when the cards first came out, this was a big prospect, and the price was reflective of that. But then we had a major breakdown, and those cards keep making more lows, although this volatility is really lightened up, and we're starting to see more buying come in. And so Bo Bichette, 24 years old, he's got 10 wins to his name or something like that. 120-ish weighted runs created, so above average player, not an elite bat or anything like that. He's really turned on the gas as of late, but we're talking about a middle infielder that maybe he could be I'm trying to think of a decent comps or Xander Bogaerts, something like that, without the batting average, but maybe a little bit more power. And so, not the most hobby love ever, but probably a pretty darn good player. And if you're looking for a decent representation of his card, that X Factor is at a decent point, I guess. I don't know. But if you look at his Bowman stuff, his Bowman first autographs, those are really going pretty well here. So easier for demand to overwhelm the supply on that one. So we'll see if that translates into some of these lower end cards getting picked up here, but who knows? Yeah. And here's the Bowman BGS 910. So yeah, again, getting a little bit of love. This is the 9510. There was one that was there's some sort of refractor one for like over 1,000 or something like that. So anyways, getting beat up as well. But again, you're seeing that volume pick up. Okay. So there's a lot more interest. And so when you have more demand come in, that could overwhelm whatever supply of these cards there is, and that would help the prices start to pick up a little bit. So again, these are starting to tick up. I guess when I was talking about some of the higher end cards, there was a refractor, a numbered refractor of this that I was looking at that finished north of $1,000 or something like that. So anyways, this one, not that card, but still a decent price here, and it's starting to tick up. And who knows? I mean, we've got $500-600 has kind of always been the price here until this became the price. But there's a lot of you're starting to see for a while there wasn't this level of demand, and now it's starting to pick up as his play continues to improve here. So Nolan Arenado, looking for another Gold Glove, having an MVP type season. I mean, really, he and Goldschmidt, I think, are neck and neck over in the NL, and his card prices just kind of staying sideways here. So if you want that nice PSA 10, I think last time we looked at it, it was 60 or $70, $80, something like that. It's like that, for a Hall of Famer, it's like, yeah, what the hell? That seems like a decent enough number. So we've got a few ticks up there, but again, a little bit more interest coming in. These were volatile moves here, and so we're seeing that volatility come out a bit. But we in the trade-off is more transactions. So again, the demand is picking up on some of these names as he has been playing really, really well here. Tommy Edman, another player that's been playing out of his mind. This is probably the best middle infield guy in the NL at least. So his prices have come down to cheap. This is a raw 2020 whatever that is. 2020 Topps Chrome update with an autograph, and so that's something you can get for sub $40. It was upwards of $60, and so that's come off 33%. He is 27 years old. He's got 12 wins to his name. Started at about age 24, and so when you do that, when you come up at age 24, you really need to be lights out, hit the ground running, and keep that going. And he didn't do that. Part of it is, COVID, right? The season was started, or Major League Baseball's decision to to shorten the season, and then last year not that great. And so, but he's a 5-win player this year, having as good a year as he did since his rookie season. So long-term prospects. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, not even on the fence, probably the wrong side of the fence here, but, looks like he could be a terrific player in the interim, and maybe there's something there, and this is an area where, some buying has picked up before. It's an inexpensive shot at something that could go. All right, Michael Harris, looks like he, and his teammate Spencer Strider are kind of your 1-2 for Rookie of the Year. Over in the NL, and we had a little bit of an oops here, so we had a lot of buying in this area. Now there's a one-off, and so if they can get it at that price, may be able to get a decent pop out of that one, at least in the short term. But it is coming into an area of potential support, kind of in this area of congestion. There's a lot in here, but this is it's a different scenario now. Now that he's up and playing Rookie of the Year, forget about that for the time being. Now the offseason may present a little better entry, kind of in that sub, I don't know, $100 area, maybe. If he wins Rookie of the Year, then I think people could hold into next season, and then if he falters, then maybe that's when you see it again here. But they'll have a lot of hype going into the year, and I think he's 21, so this is a player that people will be speculating and holding on for a little bit longer. But so anyways, all that jibber jabber, that raw is coming into an area for some decent speculation. We don't like these blow off tops here, these spikes here, but the spikes down do represent an opportunity if you can take advantage of it. All right, Xander Bogaerts, Player of the Week, right neck and neck with our own Luis Arraez for the AL batting title. And if you look at his numbers long term, this is a 28 or 29-year-old sitting with about 30 wins above replacement. Okay, so you look at his peers in that 28 to 30 area, right? And so you've got Mookie Betts, at 50 wins above replacement. Bryce Harper 45, Jose Ramirez, Francisco Lindor, sitting around that 40 area. And so these are the guys that have the best path to long-term relevance. But then you get into players like Xander Bogaerts, Alex Bregman, maybe like a Trey Turner and Aaron Judge. Those are kind of your next level, next tier down. And so Aaron Judge is a year older than Xander, and he's got 34 wins above 35 wins above replacement. Xander's sitting at 30. So he's kind of on Aaron Judge pace. Now, home runs, chicks dig the long ball, collectors dig the long ball, So, but you could just, if you just look at the numbers, Xander's going to have the average, slight edge there. And so I think that, he's going to have some relevance a little bit longer than maybe some other players as he continues on. If he's able to keep doing what he's doing, then he could make things interesting, right? So, again, on the fence to maybe slightly on the wrong side of the fence with a lot of these other guys, or some of those other guys are no doubters that I had mentioned, Machado and Lindor and Ramirez, all those guys. But these are, it's unfair to say no doubters, just have the best track. Xander's on the, that next tier down, but, it's at least interesting here. So I don't think that you buy right on this one. I like the top foil, the red hot foil refractor. It's a color match. It's not numbered. It's easy to come by. It's pretty cheap entertainment. But if you're able to get that thing sub $40, I think you could have some longer term relevance. I mean, if he gets up into his early 30s and he's sitting at 50, 55 wins above replacement, or 40, 45 or something like that, that could be interesting. This is kind of what Goldschmidt was doing. And then he had a monster year, so which he needed. So, but if he can be as consistent as he is right now, maybe he doesn't need that huge year. He just has to keep it going for a while. He just has to play for a while. So, Jose Altuve, another player that's been playing very, very excellent this year, and he's on that nice track, a little bit older, but there's some concerns. We don't need to harp on that or anything like that. So, but the top update, the base in a PSA 10 sitting around $80 or something like that. So, not a bad number at all. It's been mostly sideways. You'll have to, if you buy it and you list and someone just happens to snap it up, they're not paying attention. That's probably how money is made on this one. But for the most part, it's sideways action. But you can see that we had a nice pop out of his Diamond anniversary PSA 10. So $600 card sitting around $450. So that was ripping. Now, probably more for selling, not for buying. But if it comes back down to that $450, you know that there's people willing to pay that price here. But it's not all. It's not all, good news here. So the cognac dipped quite a bit here. It's the last sale coming in early July. So, Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. My original thesis was, oh, geez, the high end must be moving on Altuve. It's like not across the board. So there's people that really like him, and they're saying, all right, I don't think that the cheating thing sticks. And then there's other people saying that could be that could be a huge problem for him going forward. So who knows? Time will tell who's right. But in the interim, you start playing like a pretty good player here. So all right, we've got some football. I've got top 3. Looking at some NFL next gen stats. And if you just type that in, then it'll bring you to the NFL page, and they're trying to get all fancy, and I don't know how well it works, but they're trying, and it's fun. So got the top 3 at the 3 major skill positions, and we'll see what we see here. And so the first category is intended air yards, and so these are the guys that throw it down the field, and on an average basis, how far are they making it down the field? So the leader on an average basis was Russell Wilson with 9.9 intended air yards, and so he's been in a pretty persistent downtrend here. This is his his Prism 2012 Prism in a PSA 10, and so I know there's other cards out there, but hey, can't look at everything here. So we've got a pretty critical level of support here because there's no market memory in this area here. So there's a big gap down, and I think that gap could get filled with a lot of buying. There's been a lot of persistent buying on the way down here. But this is where buyers and Russ Wilson bulls want to kind of defend this area here, but because you could start to see it get real choppy. There's a lot of overhead supply, a lot of people that are underwater, especially this dude right there. But you can see on these moves here, you know, they tend more often than not to get kind of filled, and so you saw those move down, and here we are, and so you'll have to come out firing, and then maybe you can get a nice little pop here. But this is you know, the trend remains down, but this is kind of your spot to defend Russell Wilson fans here. So otherwise, that number could be a problem. And you know, honestly, if this card goes down, then there's problems for the entire card market. So we'll see how that plays out. But if you're a Russ Wilson fan, this is kind of where you want to take your shot. And, you know, hope for some sort of a breakout, but be prepared to sell it fairly quickly if it goes against you. Lamar Jackson is second in intended air yards. His average pass is 9.6 yards down the field, and he had his blow-off top here. Again, when you see that low-volume stuff, for the most part, kind of ignored. Although this one was low volume and it kept going, right? And so right now it's a little more stable. It's just like, all right, just watch, right? So you had this is more stable buying here, even though the move is down. At least you'll have a chance to sell to somebody probably right around this price. So that increased volume is fairly helpful. So again, fairly stable here. What are people thinking about Lamar Jackson going into the year here? So he's got a few receiver weapons. We'll see what they can do at running back. But if he, you know, if people are thinking he's kind of this, you know, 5 to 10 quarterback, but he finishes top 5, did he exceed expectations? And can we see a bump out of this one here? So again, if you're able to, if you're interested in managing risk, you know, this is kind of you know, a couple bucks lower wouldn't hurt you. But this is kind of your spot here. And Justin Fields was third in intended air yards, 9.5, and you know, his cards are pretty much nothing. PSA 10. This is, or excuse me, just a raw in a Prism, sub $100, and so there's a lot of volume here, but it's kind of thinning up. I mean, they're watching the preseason. He's missing everything, but he sure takes a lot of shots downfield. However, he is number 1 in completed air yards. So his average completion is 7.1 yards down the field, and so that's your number 1 guy there. So the Bears have to throw, and he's decent at it at least, and so there's your number 2. So again, consolidation, decent volume on this one here, starting to pick up just a little bit. There's a number of sales where it was a bit thin before, but it is kind of the pricing. He'll have to do something, come out of the gates hot. And as we get into the football season, really what you're betting on is that there's just gonna be a handful of guys that are gonna get all the attention for the most part. So he's going to have to be one of the top quarterbacks. Is that a bet you are willing to make here? And Matthew Stafford was your number 3. So your number 1 in completed air yards, I think it was Justin Fields. 2, I think, was Lamar Jackson. So we already looked at them, right? But Matty Staffy was 3rd in completed air yards. And so, yeah, he was able to air it out. So no one cares. Continues to trend lower. And you can see these gaps here. How again, very low volume, not a lot of market memory. There could be buying all the way through it, but they do tend to kind of fill themselves here. So we could see some lower prices again. $50 sounds kind of crazy, but you know, sitting at 123. But we shall see. But that trend remains down until it doesn't. All right. rushing yards over expectations. And so when you look at a defensive formation and a rushing play, there's an expected number of yards a running back should get. These are the players that exceeded that level on a per attempt basis. And so Rashad Penny was your number one rusher last year. Considering the formation and the play call, he was getting 2.1 yards in excess of that expectation here. So he was your lead leader, and his cards are really cheap because no one cares, no volume, and there's not a whole lot there on that one. I don't even know what to do on that. So it's a flyer. How much is he going to play? This could be a small sample size, and that's why he did it. So not a great reason to go nuts on that one. But if you're a Rashad Penny fan, just know that he's doing well in some area here. And really, Dearness Johnson was the number 2 guy, and his cards aren't even in the Market Movers database. So, Market Movers, gosh, you can't even put Dearness Johnson in your database. You guys are horrible here. So, no, I kid. They've got a lot of names in here. That's why I had to go to them. So, Jonathan Taylor, okay, right? He was your best rusher last year. He's your number 1 guy this year, and it's because he can crank out a few extra yards than other people would normally do here. So, you are seeing that Prism PSA 10. Hovering around that, was at the 350 or something like that level, whatever. So there's a number of buys here. So we saw a number of buys here. It still went lower. So manage your risk on this one. Too much lower, you're looking for a next leg down. And there's not a lot of volume, so it could get kind of choppy on that one here. Receivers, total air yards as percent of the team. So, basically catches, right? So all the balls in the air, who's catching it and what is the percent of the team total is it? And Justin Jefferson was the ball hog for the Vikings, 45% of all air yards, balls in the air. I'm not talking about like yards after the catch or anything like that. So from pass to completion, right? There's players that can catch it and then run for 80 yards. That's not in this one, but the ball into the air, that number. He's seeing a number of those targets and they're hitting them downfield. And so, this is a Prism and a PSA 9 there's a huge discrepancy between the 9 and the 10. It's not a 3-to-1 ratio on those Prism Silvers. So, I think the 10 is like $500 or $600. It's like a 5 or 6-to-1 number here. So this is sitting at like, the PSA 9 sitting around $90 right now. We looked at the raw at $40 a couple weeks ago and it's now $60. I'm not going to, pat myself on the back because I was looking for it and I couldn't find it either. So it was hard to find. It was a thin. So I didn't do anybody any favors other than, maybe put him on the radar. But, does he really need me to put him on the radar? No, he doesn't. So, decent enough spot here. There's been some, sales lower. It's kind of in the middle of the range here. Gets thin above this. But if he comes on and does what people are thinking, then that price is probably a little bit more justified this year. Number 2 in total air yards for the team is Terry McLaurin, F1. Does he have a quarterback to get him the ball here? So, that raw is going to cost you like a couple of bucks, and I think he's worth more than a couple of bucks here. So, he seems to be one-offs, although that's a couple of people here. But again, maybe this is where the money is made. You buy a card for $3-4 and you sell it for, 15, 20 or something like that. So, F1. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry. There you go. And number 3 in the total air yards as a percentage of the team total is DJ Moore, who I'm just going through my fantasy football rankings, and it's like, is he really worth that much more than Scary Terry? I don't know here. So $30+ for a raw. So again, there hasn't been a sale. It's been sort of recent within the last week or so, but yeah, he's going for quite the premium over Scary Terry. So maybe there's some relative value there, but also his quarterback is way better, so got the Baker on that one here. So all right, Donovan Mitchell, he was traded this week, got a little bit of a bump off of that one. Is that it though? Thinnest volume, top of the range. That could be it. But there's been a lot of buying on the way down here, so there you could see a lot of these people start to come back in. People that sold right in here. I mean, these are buys and sells. Maybe they start to chase it out, but break above that would be bullish. But for now, you're just kind of sitting at the top of the range. LeBron James is breaking out, and this is pretty good. So you could wait for a little bit of a pullback, but this is a card you've been waiting for. We talked about it in this area. This is where risk reward comes into play. This is a consolidation that continues the previous trend, which has been down. But it's like, all right, the bottom of these ranges, like, hey, that's worth a shot. I mean, we were talking about at 14, 15,000, got back up to 20. that was worth a sell again. But on the breakdown, it's like, that's it. You got to be out. And but now you're breaking out. And so that could be more of a durable thing. And as that price goes up, could lift up the rest of the basketball market. Anthony Edwards can do whatever he wants to do, except break out of this consolidation here. So look for a little bit more downside, perhaps. But that's a player that that may be very interesting for the season here. And you can look at his SGC 9.5, thinner volume, and again, that's rolling over as well. So I think there's some lower prices to be had in the near future, but I think it gets picked up fairly quickly. And John Morant sitting near the bottom of his range, and so this is a card you are looking at. Might be the time here whenever it gets down to this area. It does get snapped up fairly quickly. A couple of hockey here. Alexander Ovechkin breaking its downtrend, and so yeah, it looks like people are ready to start gearing up for one of the greatest hockey players ever. But hockey cards maybe they're ready to get going again here. And Connor McDavid in the PSA 9. So I think both these are PSA 9, so those 10s are pretty expensive stuff here. And we're simple people here, right? Bottom of the range and getting a nice little lift off here. So I would think that at some point maybe there's a little bit of downside, but you may during the season maybe make our way back up to the top of that range. So that could be a decent price here. All right, finish up with a little bit of crypto because I think there is a connection between you degenerates and your card buying and playing the crypto markets here. So here's Bitcoin relative to the US dollar, previous lows, and we're matching that right here. We've got a positive divergence and MACD crossover, so the momentum is picking up, and we're not as oversold as we were before, so that is a positive divergence. See if they can't get going. If you take a look at, so risk reward again below 20-ish or whatever, you don't want anything to do with it because your next stop, you're looking at getting cut in half again here. But if you look at Ethereum, kind of had the same thing and it bounced hard. So here was your previous level of support, and now it's resistance, so it's getting rejected just a little bit here. But again, looking at that momentum picking up here and that those oversold conditions relieving themselves just a bit here. So we'll see if they can't get going here. So if that is a nice little cup and handle move, I'm looking for roughly 3,000, bringing you back up into this area here. If that can break above that line here, but it looks like momentum is starting to pick up, and it is showing some relative outperformance to the S&P. And really, the big driver on all this stuff is the U.S. dollar. And so we've looked at the dollar a few times here. If the dollar can back off a bit here, then things will become more expensive, including assets like the Bitcoins, Ethereum, and stocks and all that kind of good stuff here. So if that reduces in value here, so sitting at the top of the range where in the past this is it's gotten rejected a few times here, and it's just kind of hanging around this area. It got rejected here, and one time if you look in really close, and well, here we are again. So this is where the equity market has been rallying the last couple of days here. As that dollar has been backing off, and treasury yields are starting to stall out. Kind of if you flip this upside, kind of go this way with it, treasury yields are hitting the upper end of that as well. So if that backs off a little bit, then the bond market can stabilize, and then the rest of the equity market can probably get its butt in gear just a bit here. So we'll see if that dollar can reject a little bit. Then that's bullish for a lot of those assets. And so, all right, well, this is my starting over again. So I guess I've gone too far. I've taken up enough of your time. Hey, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe if you like this kind of stuff, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.